Good morning and welcome to the Subcommittee on General Government for the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means and Senate Committee on Finance. Thank you for your patience for us starting a little bit later than anticipated. Would you please call the roll?
Senators Buck, here. Scheibel, here. Taylor, present. Assembly members Backus, present. Koenig, O'Neill, here. Torres Fawcett, here. Watts, here. Chair Anderson.
And I am present. If you would please mark Assemblymember Koenig present when he arrives, that would be wonderful. So today we are hearing many, I'm not even going to try to count how many different budgets that we'll be closing today. And so we, just as is usually the case, when we are on our computers, please do not think that we are trying to ignore anything. We're just trying to get our work done as well at the same time. And let's just get started. Why don't we get started with the first account of 1014219, the Division of Minerals. Mr. Luna.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members of the subcommittee. This is Justin Luna, Program Analyst with the Fiscal Analysis Division of the Legislative Council Bureau. Begin with the Commission on Mineral Resources Division of Minerals budget account on page 3 of your closing packet. Budget account 4219. Fiscal staff is responsible for developing closing recommendations for this budget account. Subcommittee has not previously reviewed this budget account. The Nevada Division of Minerals is governed by the Commission on Mineral Resources. The Commission directs mineral-related policy for the division and advises the governor and legislature on matters relating to mineral resources. The division is primarily funded through the collection of fees imposed on the mining industry and receives no general fund appropriations. There are no major closing issues. There are 9 other closing items, all funded with reductions to reserve revenue. I'll note other closing item number 2 is a new GIS position. Other closing item number 6 is contingent upon legislation. And on page 4, the top of page 4, are some additional requests and technical adjustments. Other closing item number 8, the agency requested to have the vehicle that is recommended to be purchased in year 2 of the biennium moved to year 1, and fiscal staff would note that as a technical adjustment if approved. So the decision box there, fiscal staff recommends other closing items 1 through 5 be closed as recommended by the governor. Other closing item 6 be closed as recommended by the governor, contingent upon the passage and approval of enabling legislation. And other closing items 7 through 9 be closed as recommended by the governor with the noted technical adjustments, and request authority for staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary. Are there any questions on this account?
Any questions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion at this time.
So moved.
Second. Thank you so much. So a motion made by Vice Chair Backus, second by Assemblymember Watts. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion's been adopted. Let's go on to the next budget of the Colorado River Commission.
We'll move on. Oh,
It's okay.
thank you. All right. Justin Luna for the record. We'll move to the 4 budget accounts with the Colorado River Commission. The first budget account, 4490, was heard by the subcommittee on February 27th. The Colorado River Commission, also known as CRC, has responsibilities for acquiring, managing, and protecting Nevada's allocation of water and hydropower resources from the Colorado River. It works closely with the Southern Nevada Water Authority, or SNWA, on all water-related efforts at the Hoover Dam and on the Colorado River. This administrative or all personnel costs for the agency are funded through this budget account. The CRC receives no state funds or federal grants and is fully funded by its customers through administrative fees and charges on the sale of power and water-related activities through contracts with its customers. This administrative charge to the customers is partly received by this budget account and also recorded in other budget accounts managed by the CRC and transferred to this budget account through a cost allocation distribution. So one major closing issue, the addition of 3 new power delivery project positions. These are unclassified power facilities electrician positions funded with cost allocation reimbursements transferred from the agency's power delivery project budget account 4501. The new positions would provide additional support for the agency's power delivery group, which performs the operation and maintenance of the transmission system, providing electrical power to the SNWA's water pumping and treatment facilities that are essential for services within the Las Vegas Valley. The 3 new positions have been discussed with the agency's funding customers and were approved by the Commission for inclusion in the governor's recommended budget. During the February 27th budget hearing, the agency presented an overview of the commission, and during the hearing, in response to a question by the subcommittee, the agency confirmed that the CRC's customers support the increases in costs related to the addition of the 3 new positions. The decision for the subcommittee on page 6. Does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of cost allocation reimbursements transferred from the agency's power delivery project budget account totaling $818,053 over the 2025-27 biennium for 1 new unclassified power facilities electrician position and 2 new unclassified senior power facility electrician positions, along with associated operating costs as recommended by the governor?
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion at this time.
So moved as stated by staff.
Motion made by Vice Chair Bacchus, seconded by Senator Taylor. Any other further discussion? Seeing none. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion's been adopted.
Thank you, Chair. Justin Luna for the record. There's one other closing item. Fiscal staff recommends the other closing item be closed as recommended by the governor and requests authority for staff to make technical adjustments as necessary.
Any discussion? Seeing none, would entertain a motion at this time.
So moved as stated by staff.
Second? Second. Okay. Motion made by Vice Chair Bacchus, second by Senator Scheibel. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion's been adopted. Let's move on to the next budget of CRC Research and Development, account number 2964497.
Thank you, Chair. Justin Luna for the record. I will now begin presenting the budget which the subcommittee has not previously reviewed for the agency and for which fiscal staff is responsible for developing closing recommendations. I will pause following my presentation of each budget to allow for questions. When I have presented the last budget in this group and questions have been addressed, the chair may wish to ask for a single motion for closing consideration on all the budgets for which fiscal staff is responsible for developing closing recommendations. So the next budget for CRC, Research and Development Account, budget account 4497. Research and Development Account is utilized as a pass-through budget account for the costs related to the Lower Colorado River Multi-Species Conservation Program to comply with the Federal Endangered Species Act. There are no major closing issues and no other closing items. And as a reminder, the closing recommendations for these budget accounts are included in the summary page following. Are there any questions on this account? Okay. The next budget account on page 11, Power Delivery Project 4501. The power delivery project budget account records all costs associated with the Colorado River Commission's high-voltage power delivery system for the Southern Nevada Water Authority's water delivery system, which provides a power transmission system from the Lake Mead substation at Hoover Dam to the Southern Nevada Water Authority water treatment facility. Funding for this budget account is provided through monthly billings to the SNWA in accordance with the approved operating budget and contracts for specific projects. There are no major closing issues and 7 other closing items. Any questions on this budget account? Thank you, Chair. Justin Luna for the record. The final budget account for CRC, Power Marketing 4502. Power marketing budget account is used to record purchases of sales and power and operational and marketing costs of the CRC's basic substation project. Funding is provided through monthly billings for power sales to hydropower customers. There are no major closing issues and no other closing items. Any questions? Yes. Justin Luna again for the record. So on page 15, as previously noted, fiscal staff is responsible for developing closing recommendations for the following budget accounts. To assist with the closing, fiscal staff has identified the budget accounts that are recommended to be closed as recommended by the governor and requests authority for staff to make technical adjustments as necessary. Fiscal staff recommends that the following budget accounts be closed as recommended by the governor and requests authority for staff to make technical adjustments as necessary. 296-4497 CRC Research and Development Account, 502-4501 CRC Power Delivery Project, and 505-4502 CRC Power Marketing.
Any questions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion at this time.
So moved. Oh, sorry, moved to close as recommended by staff, all 3 of these budgets.
Perfect.
Do you mean, okay.
We're good. All right, motion made by Chair Scheibel, seconded by Vice Chair Bacchus. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Wait, can I have
Oh,
my
wait,
amendment?
we need to maybe make a little bit of a change. If,
With the technical adjustments?
why don't we
Oh.
rescind that motion if possible, or would you be comfortable with that, with rescinding the
I will
motion?
rescind my motion.
Second, are you okay with that? Yes, she is. Okay.
I will make a new motion to approve the staff recommendations for those 3 budgets that we just reviewed and give them authority to make meaning our fiscal staff, authority to make technical adjustments as necessary.
Thank you so much. So motion made by by Chair Scheibel, second by Vice Chair Bacchus. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion's been adopted. Thank you, Mr. Luna. Why don't we take a few minutes to have some staff changes? Great, thank you so much. So now we're going to open the hearing, or I'm sorry, we're going to be discussing budget, business and industry administration, account 1014681. Ms. Ryan, if you would like to take over.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, members of the committee. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division, for the record. There are 13 budget accounts for the Department of Business and Industry for the subcommittee's consideration for closing recommendations this morning, 5 of which were previously heard by the subcommittee on February 25th, 2025, and the remaining 8 budget accounts are staff closed budgets. The first budget account for the subcommittee's consideration is the Business and Industry Administration budget account, also known as the Director's Office. This begins on page 17 of the closing packet. And this budget account was previously heard by the subcommittee on February 25th, 2025. The Director's Office is responsible for providing administrative, fiscal, and IT support and oversight to the agencies within the department. There are 6 major closing issues in this budget account, the first of which is for 6 new positions for a new human resources unit, which the governor recommends cost allocation reimbursements of $458,348 in fiscal year 2026 and $560,647 in fiscal year 2027 for 1 new accounting assistant position, 2 new personnel technicians positions, 1 new personnel analyst position, 2 new personnel officer positions, and associated operating travel and equipment costs to establish an HR unit for the department. The agency indicates the new positions would manage personnel functions, payroll management, recruitment, training, employee management, and other HR and payroll functions. The department currently utilizes the Department of Administration's Division of Human Resource Management for centralized HR services and relies on 1 existing deputy director position to manage certain HR-related duties. The agency indicates the existing deputy director position does not have the capacity to provide HR resources for the entire department, and the various duties and responsibilities of the 6 new recommended positions are outlined in the middle of page 18 of the closing packet, and includes items such as assist applicants with recruitment process, maintain accurate personnel records, develop and implement department-wide personnel policies. Additionally, the department historically performed its own HR functions prior to the 2011-13 biennium, until the 2011 legislature approved the creation of a centralized personnel section within the Division of Human Resource Management. At that time, the Department of Business and Industry transferred 2 HR positions to the Division of Human Resource Management to assist with staffing the new section. The department testified at the budget hearing on February 25th that it determined the need for 6 new positions to establish an HR unit based on an analysis of private sector entities and discussions with HR professionals that consistently pointed to 80 to 100 staff per 1 HR individual. The department also testified that there are individuals within the department who have not received a performance review in over 20 years, and with the addition of an HR unit, it would allow the employee performance reviews to be completed and the department to be proactive in developing training programs to provide development opportunities to staff within the department. Additionally, the executive budget does not include expenses for the Division of Human Resource Management's cost allocation in either year of the 2025-27 biennium, due to the recommendation for the department to have its own HR unit. The department also provided some information indicating it would work with the Division of Human Resource Management to continue providing services through a transition period as the department onboards the new HR staff if approved. Additionally, just wanted to note there are a few technical adjustments as outlined at the bottom of page 19 of the closing packet related to rental expenses, incorrect equipment, and non-schedule driven operating expenses. The decision for the subcommittee is, does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of 6 new positions to establish a human resources unit as recommended by the governor, funded with cost allocation reimbursements of $458,348 in fiscal year 2026 and $560,647 in fiscal year 2027, with the noted technical adjustments, and provide authority for fiscal staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary. Thank you.
So before we there's an entertainment of a motion, is there any discussion? Seeing none? Well, maybe. Are you ready for it? Ready for motion. Great. Assemblymember Bacchus.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. And I just kind of want to make a statement. I don't know if people had been watching our subcommittee closing for recommendation to the joint committee, but even looking at fee-funded agencies or agencies funded by the general fund, we're making a conscious effort to cut back just because we're kind of seeing some of the writing on the wall and being a little tighter with our budget across the board just because we're not sure where we're going to be. And so being that conscientious, knowing when we go to the joint committee, if things are looking more promising, obviously we can add back positions likewise. If there's always a need for our agencies to come to IFC during the interim, that's possible. I know this may be a little different because there's also a portion of allocation still going to DHRM for some services. But with that being said, Chair, my recommendation on this enhancement unit would be to recommend to the joint committee the enhancement including 1 personnel officer position, one of the personnel technician positions, and I guess it's the same thing, a one personnel analysis position. Looking at page 18 of our materials, I guess that would be starting from the bottom, first one, skipping the second one, going to the third one, and then one of the two personnel technician positions, as well as allowing our staff to make any noted technical adjustments and provide authority for fiscal staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary to meet that proposed recommendation.
Do I have a second for the motion?
Second.
Thank you so much. Any further discussion? Seeing none, motion was made by Vice Chair Bacchus, second by Chair Scheibel. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's been adopted. Ms. Ryan?
Thank you, Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The second major closing issue is on page 20 of the closing packet, which consists of 4 new IT positions and the centralization of department IT services, which the governor recommends cost allocation reimbursements of $378,610 in fiscal year 2026 and $471,877 in fiscal year 2027 for 4 new IT positions, the transfer of 4 existing IT positions from other B&I divisions to centralize the department IT staff under the director's office, and changing the funding source of the 4 IT positions transferred into this budget account with cost allocation reimbursements of $653,334 in fiscal year 2026 and $657,351 in fiscal year 2027. According to the agency, the governor's recommendations would address an increased need for IT support, increase IT efficiency, and would centralize department IT staff, which would better serve the divisions within the department. Due to increased IT system and software needs for the department's various divisions, additional IT support is needed and would be provided by the 4 new IT positions. The director's office currently has 7 existing IT positions providing IT services for the entire department. And then there is a table at the top of page 21 of the closing packet that outlines the new IT positions recommended to be added as well as transferred into the director's office budget account from those 4 existing divisions within the department. With the centralization of IT staff and the addition of the 4 new recommended IT positions, the department would have 15 total IT positions within the director's office and would create 2 IT teams with 1 IT team consisting of 11 positions for IT network administration, servers, and help desk services, and a second team with 4 positions for IT enterprise programming and software management. The department testified that there are 4 existing IT positions in other divisions outside of the director's office whose time cannot be reallocated to a different division within the department due to their being funded by a specific funding source in individual budget accounts. Additionally, the IT needs of the various divisions and the demand for IT services have increased, and the consolidation of IT resources within the department would allow multiple staff to work on the day-to-day IT operations as well as any IT projects for the entire department. And there are technical adjustments as outlined on page 22 of the closing packet related to rental expenses, incorrect equipment, non-schedule driven operating expenses, and revenue neutral adjustments for the transfer decision units. The decision for the subcommittee at the bottom of page 22 of the closing packet is 1. Does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of cost allocation reimbursements for 4 new IT positions funded with cost allocation reimbursements of $378,610 in fiscal year 2026 and $471,877 in fiscal year 2027 with the noted technical adjustments? And 2. Does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of the centralization of department IT staff within the Business and Industry Administration budget account, which includes the transfer of 4 IT positions from the Insurance Regulation budget account, the Nevada Transportation Authority budget account, the Housing Division budget account, and the Division of Industrial Relations budget account, and change the funding source for these positions with cost allocation reimbursements totaling $653,334 in fiscal year 2026 and $657,351 in fiscal year 2027 with the noted technical adjustments.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion at this time. Would anybody like to make a motion? Please.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I would go ahead and move that the committee recommend both of the decision items, 1 and 2, as stated by staff.
For a second? Second. Thank you. Motion made by Vice Chair Bacchus, second by Chair Scheibel. Further discussion, seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's been adopted. Let's move on to decision number 3.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The third major closing issue in this budget account consists of 3 different decision units, which will be presented separately for the subcommittee's consideration, which consists of 8 new positions for the Director's Office, for which the Governor recommends cost allocation reimbursements of $690,870 in fiscal year 2026 and $923,863 in fiscal year 2027, for 1 new unclassified Deputy Director position, 1 new Legal Research Assistant position, 2 new Public Information Officer positions, 3 new Accounting Assistant positions, 1 new Management Analyst position, and associated operating costs for the Director's Office. The first decision in this major closing issue is for 1 new unclassified Deputy Director position, which the Governor recommends cost allocation reimbursements of $220,071 in fiscal year 2026 and $259,653 in fiscal year 2027, for 1 new unclassified Deputy Director position to provide leadership and structure to the department's enforcement activities. The agency indicates that the recommended new unclassified Deputy Director position is no longer needed, and the Governor's Office of Finance submitted Budget Amendment A25-485-4681 on March 18, 2025, to eliminate the recommendation of 1 new unclassified Deputy Director position and associated operating costs in Decision Unit E227. The decision for the subcommittee is: does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of the elimination of cost allocation reimbursements of $220,071 in fiscal year 2026 and $259,653 in fiscal year 2027 for 1 unclassified Deputy Director position and associated operating costs recommended in Decision Unit E227 as recommended in Budget Amendment A25-485-4681?
Thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I would go ahead and move as stated by staff.
Second? Thank you. We've got a motion made by Vice Chair Bacchus, second by Assemblymember Torres Fawcett. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Nay? Hearing none, motion's been adopted. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The second decision before the subcommittee in this major issue is for 2 new Public Information Officer positions and 1 new Legal Research Assistant position, which the Governor recommends cost allocation reimbursements of $197,654 in fiscal year 2026 and $329,919 in fiscal year 2027 for 2 new Public Information Officer positions, 1 new Legal Research Assistant position, and associated operating costs to address the department's increased communication needs. There is currently 1 existing Public Information Officer position that assists all the divisions within the department in preparing communication resources for the department's constituents and consumers, which the agency has determined is insufficient to provide proactive communication and public relations department-wide. Additionally, the department indicates the 2 new Public Information Officer positions would assist the department in developing a strategic communication plan, distribute press releases, website development of department web pages, and manage high-conflict situations. During the budget hearing, the department indicated 2 positions were recommended to be added based on the current workload of the existing Public Information Officer position, and the department indicates it is currently unable to complete many tasks due to the substantial communication needs of the various divisions within the department. In relation to the Legal Research Assistant position, the department testified during the budget hearing that the existing administrative law judge is responsible for adjudicating cases, scheduling hearings, presiding over those hearings, preparing all legal briefs and opinions, and conducting all of the necessary research for 12 different divisions. With the addition of 1 new Legal Research Assistant position, the administrative law judge would receive support similar to a paralegal position. And the new legal research assistant position would provide support to the administrative law judge position by conducting legal research, evaluating policy implications of legislation, and assisting with drafting and reviewing legal opinions, pleadings, motions, and other legal documents. At the top of page 25 of the closing packet, there are minor technical adjustments related to this decision unit. And the decision for the subcommittee is, does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of 2 new public information officer positions, 1 new legal research assistant position, and associated operating costs, funded with cost allocation reimbursements of $197,654 in fiscal year 2026 and $329,919 in fiscal year 2027, with the noted technical adjustments.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, Chair Scheibel.
Thank you, Chair. I also have a little statement and then a motion here, similar to Vice Chair Backus. I think that unfortunately we are in a position where we can't fund everything that we want to fund. So I do think that the legal assistant is important. In fact, I'm amazed that anybody found a person who was willing to serve as an administrative law judge who was also willing to schedule their own hearings. So let's go ahead and approve the legal assistant, but I just don't think that we can justify 2 additional PIOs. I'm going to recommend that we do 1 PIO. So my motion would be to approve with the reduction from the 2 PIO positions to 1 PIO position and the legal assistant, and then to give staff the authority to make technical changes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's been adopted. Mr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal, for the record. The third decision in this major closing issue is for 4 new positions for the Fiscal Services Unit, which the Governor recommends cost allocation reimbursements of $273,145 in fiscal year 2026 and $334,291 in fiscal year 2027 for 3 new accounting assistant positions, 1 new management analyst position, and associated operating costs to help address an increase in workload in the department's Fiscal Services Unit. According to the agency, the 3 new accounting assistant positions would provide daily accounting support, handle travel claims, stale claims, and daily deposits, and reconcile weekly and monthly budget status reports. The agency indicates the recommendation for 1 new management analyst position would allow the department to be more proactive in contract management, as many divisions do not currently provide the department with sufficient time to renew or extend a contract prior to the expiration of the contract. The department testified that since fiscal year 2014, the department has experienced a 14% increase in accounts payable transactions. Additionally, the department switched to many online processes in fiscal year 2020 and experienced an increase in the workload of the accounts receivable team, which has contributed to the department's need for additional accounting assistant positions. Additionally, the department testified that a centralized management analyst position is needed to assist the department's divisions in monitoring these contracts and ensuring the paperwork is started in a timely manner when contracts are near expiration, and work with the Department of Administration's purchasing division to ensure those contracts remain in compliance. There are minor technical adjustments as outlined on page 26 of the closing packet. And the decision for the subcommittee is, does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of 3 new accounting assistant positions, 1 new management analyst position and associated operating costs, funded with cost allocation reimbursements of $273,145 in fiscal year 2026 and $334,291 in fiscal year 2027, with the noted technical adjustments. Thank you.
Any discussion? Chair Scheibel.
I was ready to make a motion, I think. Go for it. Okay, keeping on theme here, not trying to pick on any one particular division. I don't think we can fund all of the positions that are being requested, but I will move to approve 2 new accounting assistant positions, as well as the management analyst position and the, associated operating costs and the cost allocation reimbursement. And then I would move to give the staff authority to make any technical adjustments.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair Backus. Motion made by Chair Scheibel, second by Vice Chair Backus. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's been adopted. Ms. Ryan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The fourth major closing issue in this budget account is on page 26 of the closing packet, which is for the new Department of Public Safety Capitol Police Security Services for the Las Vegas office locations, which the governor recommends cost allocation reimbursements of $481,748 in fiscal year 2026 and $864,779 in fiscal year 2027 to fund a contract with the Department of Public Safety to provide security services at the department's office locations in Las Vegas. The agency indicates the recommendation would improve safety and security for department staff located at the department's buildings in Las Vegas. This recommendation is a companion to Decision Unit E276 in the DPS Capitol Police Budget Account 4727, that would fund 1 DPS sergeant position, 4 DPS officer positions, and associated travel, operating, and equipment costs to provide Capitol Police coverage at the department's Las Vegas office locations. The department currently utilizes contract security services through Allied Universal Security Services, and according to the agency, the services that are provided by Allied Universal are insufficient to meet the security needs of the department. The department indicates that due to increasing instances of security threats, a more substantial security presence is needed to ensure agency staff are provided with a safe and secure working environment. Fiscal staff would note that there are corresponding decision units in various department budget accounts to reduce contract expenses for Allied Universal Security Services by 50% in fiscal year 2026 and 100% in fiscal year 2027. The department testified that the recommended Capitol Police positions would be Category 1 peace officers and have the ability to carry out and enforce the laws of the state, while the security officers through Allied Universal Security Services do not and must rely on local law enforcement agencies when situations arise. The department further testified that Capitol Police positions located at the department's Las Vegas office locations that are trained and able to respond in real time, arrest individuals, and mitigate any threats in a timely manner would provide for the immediate response to emergencies, meet the security needs of the department, and provide the department with safety measures that Allied Universal Security Services is not able to provide. Additionally, the department notes that even though these officers would be located at the B&I office locations, in the case of any emergencies, the officers would be dispatched to wherever they are needed. The decision for the subcommittee is on page 28 of the closing packet. Does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of the governor's recommendation of cost allocation reimbursements of $481,748 in fiscal year 2026 and $864,779 in fiscal year 2027 to fund a contract with the Department of Public Safety to provide security services at the department's office locations in Las Vegas?
Just give you a little bit of a breather. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion at this time.
So I think that while we are trying to save money here, we don't save it at the expense of our staff safety. And I don't see a way that we could spend any less and still provide that necessary service. I also prefer to have post-certified law enforcement officers at government buildings instead of contracted security. So I think that this is a wise investment, and I will move to approve as recommended and include the authority to make technical adjustments as necessary.
Thank you so much. I've got a motion by Chair Scheibel, second by Vice Chair Bacchus. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's been adopted. You're almost, well, nope, we're not halfway through. Never mind. Keep on going, Mr. Ryan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The fifth major closing issue is for major technology investments for the subcommittee's consideration this morning and consists of 2 decision units which will be presented as 2 different decisions. The first of which the governor recommends in total for the 2, general fund appropriations of $73,167 and cost allocation reimbursements of $155,377 in fiscal year 2026, and general fund appropriations of $47,762 and cost allocation reimbursements of $28,657 in fiscal year 2027 to fund technology investments for the department's fiscal services and consumer affairs units. On page 29 of the closing packet, in regard to Decision Unit E550, the Fiscal Services Unit currently uses a manual process to complete documents, and the agency indicates that the current process results in documents getting lost, impedes the ability to monitor the workflow or location of documents, and results in untimely processing and approval of documents. The agency indicates that the implementation of the on-base platform would allow the department to digitally store documents, monitor workflows, run reports, assign tasks, and streamline approval processes. As previously noted, the department has experienced a 14% increase in accounts payable transactions since fiscal year 2014, and this new database would provide the department with the ability to better monitor these workflows, including staff assignments, to ensure that there is equitable workload distribution and that invoices are paid on a timely basis. The new database would also allow a supervisor to reassign a document should a staff member be out of office. And the decision for the subcommittee is, does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of cost allocation reimbursements of $155,377 in fiscal year 2026 and $28,657 in fiscal year 2027 to fund the implementation of a new database on-base platform for the department's fiscal services unit as recommended by the governor?
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion at this time.
Move to approve as recommended.
Second? Second. Wonderful, thank you so much. I've got a motion made by Chair Scheibel, second by Vice Chair Bacchus. Are there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. A nay. All those opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, motion's been adopted.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. In regard to Decision Unit E551, the Consumer Affairs Unit protects consumers from unfair and deceptive trade practices and provides education to prevent consumers from becoming victims of fraud. According to the agency, the Consumer Affairs Unit currently uses manual processes to track case progress, generate reports, and maintain records. The agency indicates the new database would automate workflows, reduce manual data entry errors, assist with regulating renewals, deadlines, and compliance requirements, allow for investigators to link related cases, and generate reports for internal audits and performance tracking. The department indicates a new system is needed in order to provide a higher level of support. The decision for the subcommittee is on page 30 of the closing packet. And does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of general fund appropriations of $73,167 in fiscal year 2026 and $47,762 in fiscal year 2027 to fund the implementation of a new database for the department's Consumer Affairs Unit as recommended by the governor?
Are there any questions regarding this? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
So moved as stated by staff.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you so much. Motion made by Vice Chair Bacchus, second by Chair Scheibel. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's been adopted.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The last major closing issue is on page 30 of the closing packet and is related to the Director's Office cost allocation methodology change. So inclusive of all maintenance and enhancement decision units in this budget account, the governor recommends total cost allocation reimbursements of $17.8 million over the 2025-27 biennium, an increase of $8.9 million when compared to the cost allocation reimbursements of $8.9 million legislatively approved for the 2023-25 biennium. The governor also recommends a change to the cost allocation methodology, so it is calculated based on the position count in each budget account within the department, rather than based on a financial document count-focused distribution methodology. The agency indicates that the current methodology does not accurately reflect the services that are provided to the individual divisions within the by the Director's Office, and this new methodology would provide consistency across the department's various divisions. As background, the 2011 legislature expressed concerns with the stability and equity of the department's cost allocation methodology at the time. That was based on position counts, which excluded budget accounts where no positions were contained. The department did revise its cost allocation methodology during the 2015 legislative session to allocate the agency's administrative and fiscal functions using financial transaction counts from the base year and payroll and IT functions by full-time equivalent position count. The department testified during the budget hearing that it determined charging the agencies within the department based on a document count is an inefficient way to account for the services provided by the Director's Office. Additionally, the department provided information indicating that since fiscal year 2015, the services provided by the Director's Office to the agencies within the department have evolved and expanded. Due to these expanded services, the department indicates that the cost allocation methodology based primarily on a financial document count is no longer an appropriate way to determine the proportional share of cost allocation expenses for the agencies. Additionally, the department further notes that the proposed change in methodology would allow for the new boards and commissions budget account to be incorporated in the cost allocation distribution, as there is no existing historical document count for that budget account. However, it should be noted that while a historical document count may not accurately be captured for the boards and commissions for the 2025-27 biennium, it could be captured in future biennia. Given financial document counts would continue to be available through the core NV system, the subcommittee could consider approving a hybrid cost allocation consistent with prior legislatively approved budgets. This hybrid methodology could consider a count of FTE within each budget account to distribute HR, payroll, IT, and director-level costs, which would acknowledge and address the department's concerns related to the workload generated by positions. The decision for the subcommittee on page 33 of the closing packet includes some options for the subcommittee's consideration, which includes, does the subcommittee wish to A, recommend approval of the governor's recommendation to revise the director's office cost allocation methodology from a methodology based on a count of financial documents to a methodology based on the position count in each budget account within the department? If so, the subcommittee may also wish to recommend issuing a letter of intent to the department to work with the Governor's Office of Finance in the Fiscal Analysis Division during the 2025-26 interim to examine the department's method for recovering central administrative costs, to determine whether the current distribution of costs is equitable to all divisions and budget accounts within the Department of Business and Industry, and to develop recommendations for any revisions to the cost allocation methodology to be utilized in the construction of its 2027-29 biennial budget. Or B, recommend approval of a hybrid cost allocation methodology that utilizes both the FTE count for HR, payroll, IT, and director-level costs, as well as financial document counts for fiscal services to determine the portion of the director's office cost allocation for each budget account within the department.
All right. Any questions regarding this? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion with that decision. Chair Scheibel.
Thank you, Chair. I will move to accept recommendation B with a hybrid cost allocation.
Any further, second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, motion was made by Chair Scheibel, seconded by Vice Chair Bacchus. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's been adopted to approve B for that question. All right, Ms. Ryan, you're almost halfway done now. Now you are almost halfway done.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. There are 27 other closing items in this budget account, 21 of which are outlined in the tables spanning pages 33 and 34 of the closing packet. Other closing item number 22 includes a technical adjustment to travel expenses based on revised projections. Other closing item number 23 includes a technical adjustment to remove base budget expenses that would no longer be needed if Decision Unit E552 is approved. And then on page 35 of the closing packet, other closing item number 24 includes a technical adjustment to align the grade and step with the grade and step in the base budget for this position. Other closing item number 25 is for conference room rent expenses, which were not originally included in the executive budget, for which Budget Amendment A25-485-4681 was submitted by the Governor's Office of Finance on March 18th, 2025, and recommends cost allocation reimbursements of $72,527 in fiscal year 2026 and $76,044 in fiscal year 2027 to fund rent expenses for conference rooms at the department's Las Vegas office, resulting from a new lease. Other closing item number 26 includes a recommendation that the subcommittee not recommend approval of Decision Unit E240, as it is duplicative of expenses already recommended in other closing item number 2. Other closing item number 27 includes a recommendation to recommend this decision unit be closed consistent with the subcommittee's action on Decision Unit E227. The decision for the subcommittee is: fiscal staff recommends other closing items 1 through 7, other closing items 13 through 21, and other closing item 25 as reflected in Budget Amendment A25-485-4681 be closed as recommended by the Governor. Other closing item 8 be closed consistent with the subcommittee action on Decision Unit E232. Other closing item 9 be closed consistent with the subcommittee action on Decision Units E225 and E232. Other closing item 10 be closed consistent with the subcommittee action on Decision Units E26 and E232. Other closing item 11 be closed consistent with the subcommittee action on Decision Units E228 and E232. Other closing item 12 be closed consistent with the subcommittee action on decision units E229 and E232. Other closing items 22 through 24 be closed with the noted technical adjustments noted by fiscal staff. Other closing item 26 not being approved, and other closing item 27 being closed consistent with the subcommittee's action on decision unit E227 with consideration of budget amendment A24854681 and request authority for fiscal staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Whew, that was a lot. Thank you so much. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion at this time.
I'll move to accept the staff recommendation, including the authority to make technical changes.
Thank you so much. I'll second. Thank you. So motion was, as read by staff, made by Chair Scheibel, seconded by Vice Chair Bacchus. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion's been adopted. Oh, yay, we're done with that one. So we're going to move on now to still B&I. Now it's the Real Estate Administration Account 1013823. Ms. Ryan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The next budget account for the subcommittee's consideration this morning is the Real Estate Administration Budget Account, which was previously heard by the subcommittee on February 25th, 2025. The Real Estate Division regulates real estate brokers and salespersons, timeshare agents, property managers, appraisers, qualified intermediaries, and building inspectors. There is one major closing issue in this budget account, which is for a position transfer, for which the governor recommends the transfer of one administrative assistant position and associated operating costs from the Common Interest Communities budget account to the Real Estate Administration budget account. Additionally, the governor recommends changing the funding source of this position from reserves to general fund appropriations totaling $195,236 over the 2025-27 biennium. During the Legislative Commission's Budget Subcommittee hearing of the Department of Business and Industry on January 22, 2025, the agency testified that the recommended position transfer is no longer needed, which the department reiterated during the budget hearing on February 25th. Budget Amendment A25-469-3823 was submitted by the Governor's Office of Finance on March 14, 2025, to eliminate the transfer in of the administrative assistant position and funding source change in this budget account. A corresponding budget amendment, Budget Amendment A25-468-3820, was submitted on March 14, 2025, to eliminate the transfer out of the administrative assistant position in the Common Interest Communities budget account. The decision for the subcommittee is on page 38 of the closing packet and includes, does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of Budget Amendment A25-469-3823, which would eliminate the transfer of one administrative assistant position and associated operating costs from the Common Interest Communities budget account to the Real Estate Administration budget account, Decision Unit E900, and would eliminate the recommended change in the funding source of this position from reserves to general fund appropriations totaling $195,236 over the 2025-27 biennium, Decision Unit E500.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion at this time.
So moved as stated by staff.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion made by Vice Chair Bacchus, second by Chair Scheibel. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's been adopted. Let's move on now to, I believe, oh, there's more to it. Never mind. Ms. Ryan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. There are 4 other closing items as outlined in the table on page 38 of the closing packet, for which fiscal staff recommends other closing items 1, 3, and 4 be closed as recommended by the governor. Other closing item 2 be closed with the subcommittee action on decision unit E232 in the Business and Industry Administration budget account, and requests authority to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Any questions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
So moved as stated by staff.
Second?
Second.
Thank you so much. Vice Chair, motion made by Vice Chair Bacchus, second by Chair Scheibel. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Hearing none, motion's been adopted. Now we get to move on to the next one. So now let's move on to Real Estate Recovery Account, Account 2163827. Ms. Ryan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The next budget account for the subcommittee's consideration is the real estate recovery account, which was previously heard by the subcommittee on February 25th, 2025. The Real Estate Education, Research, and Recovery Fund, which includes this budget account as well as the Real Estate Education and Research budget account. And fee revenue initially flows into this budget account to pay recovery claims, and funding in excess of $300,000 in this budget account is transferred to the Real Estate Education and Research budget account for education and research efforts. There's one major closing issue in this budget account, which consists of transfers and elimination of the Real Estate Recovery budget account, for which the governor recommends the transfer of associated revenue and expenses totaling $1 million in each year of the 2025-27 biennium to the Real Estate Education and Research budget account, and the elimination of the Real Estate Recovery budget account, which would assist the agency with fiscal tracking and reduce the steps to close the budget accounts at the end of each fiscal year. When the fund was created in 1967, two separate budget accounts were created to track and separate the threshold amounts required to pay recovery claims, since the accounting system at the time did not allow for multiple reserve accounts within the same budget account. The current accounting system now has the capability to manage multiple reserve categories within a single budget account, and the agency testified that the current challenges in administering and maintaining the Real Estate Education, Research, and Recovery Fund in two separate budget accounts is the workload associated with duplicative business processes that could be streamlined by consolidating the fund into one budget account. There are no positions funded in this budget account or otherwise affected by this recommendation. The decision for the subcommittee is: does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of the governor's recommendation to transfer associated revenue and expenses totaling $1 million in each year of the 2025-27 biennium to the Real Estate Education and Research budget account and eliminate the Real Estate Recovery budget account? If the subcommittee wishes to recommend approval of this recommendation, it may also wish to recommend revising the name of the current Real Estate Education and Research budget account as the Real Estate Education, Research, and Recovery Fund to reflect this change and align with the name provided under Chapter 645 of NRS.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion at this time.
I would go ahead and move that we make both recommendations as stated by staff.
Second?
Second.
Thank you so much. Motion made by Vice Chair Bacchus, second by Chair Scheibel. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's been adopted. And next budget, it looks like, is Division of Financial Institutions, Account 101-3835. Ms. Ryan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The next budget account is the Division of Financial Institutions budget account, which was also previously heard by the subcommittee on February 25th, 2025. And the Financial Institutions Division is responsible for the licensure and regulation of all state-chartered financial institutions. There are three major closing issues in this budget account, the first of which is for a new unclassified Deputy Division Administrator position, for which the Governor recommends reserve reductions of $132,680 in fiscal year 2026 and $166,734 in fiscal year 2027 for one new unclassified Deputy Division Administrator position to serve as a Deputy Commissioner, which the agency indicates is needed to fully support the Commissioner of Financial Institutions and ensure the division's mission is carried out in a timely manner. The agency currently has one Deputy Commissioner position assisting the Commissioner in regulating approximately 1,930 licensees and providing oversight of the division's legislative and budgetary matters, administration, personnel functions of the division, development and implementation of policies, procedures, and new programs. Having two Deputy Commissioner positions would allow the division to guarantee coverage at all times, provide timely supervision and feedback to division staff and licensees, and focus on cryptocurrency risks and provide specialization in certain tasks. The agency testified that it has experienced challenges in managing its current workload, prompting the need for a second Deputy Commissioner position, and the agency testified that in comparison to the growth it has experienced in its regulatory responsibility, it has not seen a corresponding increase in administrative support to ensure the division maintains the same quality of work. There are minor technical adjustments as outlined on page 44 related to this major closing issue. And the decision for the subcommittee is: does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of the governor's recommendation for reserve reductions of $132,680 in fiscal year 2026 and $166,734 in fiscal year 2027 for one new unclassified Deputy Division Administrator position to serve as a Deputy Commissioner position with the noted technical adjustments, and provide authority for fiscal staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary?
Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved as stated by staff.
Second?
Second.
And thank you so much. Motion made by Vice Chair Bacchus, second by Chair Scheibel. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Hearing none, motion's been adopted. Ms. Ryan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The second major closing issue in this budget account is for one new IT professional position, for which the governor recommends reserve reductions of $107,582 in fiscal year 2026 and $136,721 in fiscal year 2027 for one new IT professional position in the Las Vegas office to develop and implement a cybersecurity examination program to evaluate and examine financial institutions' IT infrastructures due to the growing threat of cybersecurity attacks on financial systems. The agency indicates a cybersecurity examination program, along with a regulatory framework, could help financial institutions mitigate cybersecurity attacks that would compromise their financial information systems and avoid loss of consumer information, disruption in business activities, and create a reputational risk for state regulators. The agency testified that currently it is unable to participate in the IT examinations that are performed by federal agencies or third-party companies due to the lack of an IT professional position. The new IT professional position would be responsible for conducting the initial IT examination setup, the preliminary assessment of the industry, and the actual examinations. Additionally, further, the agency testified that it would potentially request additional positions in future biennia to assist the IT professional position in conducting these IT examinations. There are minor technical adjustments as outlined on page 46 of the closing packet related to this major closing issue. And the decision for the subcommittee is, does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of the governor's recommendation for reserve reductions of $107,582 in fiscal year 2026 and $136,721 in fiscal year 2027 for one new IT professional position and associated operating costs, with the noted technical adjustments and authority for fiscal staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Are there any discussions on this? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
So moved as stated by staff.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Motion made by Vice Chair Bacchus, second by Chair Scheibel. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Hearing none, motion's been adopted. Let's move on to the cryptocurrency.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The third and final major closing issue in this budget account is for a new cryptocurrency software, for which the governor recommends reserve reductions of $70,000 in each fiscal year of the 2025-27 biennium to fund a cryptocurrency monitoring software, which would allow the division to monitor and evaluate risks associated with cryptocurrency transactions. The agency indicates that it is currently limited in its ability to regulate cryptocurrency, and the software would assist the division during an investigation or examination. The agency notes that the software would primarily be used as an investigative tool and would allow the division to trace cryptocurrency transactions back to participants. Should an issue be detected with regulating cryptocurrency transactions, the agency indicates it would monitor the licensee or unlicensed entity and take the proper disciplinary action to remedy the issue. The agency testified that it is limited in its resources and knowledge to effectively regulate and monitor cryptocurrency transactions, and the recommended cryptocurrency monitoring software, if approved, would provide the agency with additional resources to monitor and better understand these transactions. The decision for the subcommittee is on page 47 of the closing packet, and is, does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of reserve reductions of $70,000 in each fiscal year of the 2025-27 biennium to fund a cryptocurrency monitoring software as recommended by the governor?
Thank you. Is there any questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
So moved as stated by staff.
Second?
Second.
Thank you so much. The motion's been made by Vice Chair Bacchus, second by Chair Scheibel. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's been adopted. And one more, I think.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. There are 10 other closing items in this budget account, 8 of which are outlined in the table on page 47. And other closing item 9 includes a recommended technical adjustment related to travel expenses. And other closing item 10 includes a recommended technical adjustment to include ongoing operating costs for 3 existing positions recommended to be continued in the 2025-27 biennium. The decision for the subcommittee is fiscal staff recommends other closing items 1 through 7 be closed as recommended by the governor. Other closing item 8 be closed consistent with the subcommittee action on decision unit E232 in the Business and Industry Administration budget account. Other closing items 9 and 10 be closed with the noted technical adjustments, and request authority for staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion at this time.
So moved as stated by staff.
Second?
Second.
Thank you so much. The vice chair has made a motion and seconded by Chair Bacchus. I'm so sorry, Vice Chair Bacchus, seconded by Chair Scheibel. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Nay? Hearing none, motion's been adopted. Let's move on to now, B&I Financial Institutions Investigations, account 1013805. Ms. Ryan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The next budget account is the Financial Institutions Investigations budget account, which was previously heard by the subcommittee on February 25th, 2025. In the Financial Institutions Investigations budget account is to reimburse the expenses associated with investigations of licensees and costs associated with mergers, consolidations, conversions, receiverships, and liquidations, and is funded by application fees received from licensees. There is one major closing issue in this budget account, which consists of a new licensing examination and enforcement system, for which the governor recommends reserve reductions of $1.2 million in fiscal year 2026 and $176,000 in fiscal year 2027 to fund the implementation of a new licensing examination and enforcement system to improve efficiency and functionality. The agency currently utilizes a legacy licensing system, which the agency indicates is no longer supported by the vendor. The agency indicates the new system would include business functions inclusive of licensing, examinations, complaints, investigations, and enforcement, cash receipts, accounting, auditing, and assessments, education providers, courses and instructors, public lookup of licensee information, and would interface with the nationwide multi-state licensing system. It does not appear that all of the business functions recommended to be included in the procurement and implementation of the new system would be in compliance with the eligible uses of the funding in this budget account, as outlined in NRS 232-545. During the budget hearing on February 25th, the agency testified that the existing Versta system is antiquated, and the division currently must merge reports and rewrite information to create a usable report. The agency testified that it determined that all aspects recommended to be added for the new licensing examination and enforcement system comply with the eligible uses of the funding in the Financial Institutions Investigations budget account, as outlined in NRS 232-545, as all applications and consumer complaints prompt investigations. Upon further review of NRS 232-545 in consultation with the legal division of the Legislative Counsel Bureau, the eligibility of the use of the funds in the Financial Institutions Investigations budget account for the recommended new database appears questionable without statutory changes to broaden the use of the funds. Given this issue, should the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of the new database, it may wish to recommend this new database be funded in the Division of Financial Institutions budget account, which was the previous budget account, where the costs of the existing database are currently funded. The decision for the subcommittee is on page 52 of the closing packet, and there are options for the subcommittee's consideration, which include: does the subcommittee wish to A, recommend approval of the governor's recommendation to fund the implementation of a new licensing examination and enforcement system in the Financial Institutions Investigations budget account, funded with reserve reductions of $1.2 million in fiscal year 2026 and $176,000 in fiscal year 2027, or option B, not recommend approval of the governor's recommendation to fund the implementation of a new licensing examination and enforcement system in the Financial Institutions Investigations budget account, but rather recommend approval of reserve reductions of $1.2 million in fiscal year 2026 and $176,000 in fiscal year 2027 in the Division of Financial Institutions budget account 3835, to fund the implementation of a new licensing examination and enforcement system. Or option C, not recommend approval of the governor's recommendation to fund the implementation of a new licensing examination and enforcement system, and fiscal staff requests authority to enter technical adjustments as necessary based on the subcommittee's recommendation.
Any discussion? I've got two that I think have their hands up. Chair Scheibel.
Thank you. I would move that we accept option B, not recommend funding the implementation out of this budget account, but recommend the reserve reduction of $1.2 million and account 3835, and of course, give staff the authority to make any technical adjustments.
Thank you so much. So I've got a motion from Chair Scheibel, second by Vice Chair Bacchus, to again not recommend the approval of the governor's recommendation to fund the implementation of a new licensing examination enforcement system in the financial institutions investigation budget account, but rather recommend approval of reserve reductions of 1.2 million in fiscal year 2026 and 176,000 in fiscal year 2027 in the Division of Financial Institutions budget account, BA 3835, to fund the implementation of a new licensing examination enforcement system, and then also grant authority to enter technical adjustments to staff as necessary based on the subcommittee's recommendation. Is that the motion that you had said?
Yes, it is.
I thought so. Thank you so much. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Hearing none, motion's been adopted. And I think we've got one more in this budget.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. There are two other closing items as outlined in the table on page 52 of the closing packet. And fiscal staff recommends all other closing items be closed as recommended by the governor and requests authority for staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Thank you so much. Are there any discussions? Seeing none, is there a motion I'll entertain a motion.
Move to adopt as recommended by staff.
Thank you. Second? Second. Thank you. Motion's been made by Chair Scheibel, seconded by Vice Chair Bacchus. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Nay. All those opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, motion's been adopted. Let's move on now to B&I, Office of Business and Planning, account 101-4677.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The next 8 budget accounts the subcommittee has not previously heard and for which fiscal staff is responsible for developing closing recommendations. The closing recommendations for these budget accounts are identified on the summary page in the closing packet, which will allow the subcommittee members to make closing recommendations for these 8 budget accounts in one motion. I will pause after each budget account as well for any questions if necessary. The first budget account for which fiscal staff is responsible for developing closing recommendations for is the Office of Business and Planning budget account. The Office of Business, Finance, and Planning administers programs to assist and support the growth, development, and diversification of business and industry in the state. There are no major closing issues in this budget account. There are 3 other closing items as outlined in the table on page 53 of the packet. Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The next budget account is the New Markets Performance Guarantee budget account. The purpose of the New Markets Job Act is to encourage investments into businesses or nonprofit organizations in low-income areas to encourage economic and community growth. There are no major closing issues. There are 3 other closing items in this budget account, which includes 2 other closing items as outlined in the table at the bottom of page 55, and other closing item 3 outlined at the top of page 56 of the closing document, which includes a technical adjustment to reduce refund expenses by $250,000 in fiscal year 2026 to align with the actual funding available for refunds to eligible entities in fiscal year 2026. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The next budget account is the Private Activity Bonds budget account. The Department of Business and Industry Director's Office administers the state's share of bonding authority and administers the charter school bond program and various private activity bond programs. This budget account is funded primarily through various application transfer and processing fees associated with the bonding programs. And there are no major closing issues in this budget account. There are 3 other closing items in the table at the top of page 58 of the closing packet.
Any questions? Nope. One more up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The next budget account is the Real Estate Technology account. The Real Estate Technology account was created to maintain, upgrade, and enhance the division's technology and is funded by a $15 fee charged with each issuance of or renewal of certain licensees. There are no major closing issues in this budget account and no other closing items. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The next budget account is the Real Estate Education and Research budget account. The Real Estate Education and Research Budget Account funds the review and approval of continuing education courses for Nevada's real estate licensees and the licensing of instructors for those courses. This budget account is funded through a transfer from the Real Estate Recovery Account of any balance over $300,000 remaining at the end of a fiscal year. There are no major closing issues in this budget account, and there are 5 other closing items as outlined in the table at the bottom of page 61 of the closing packet.
Any questions? Seeing none? Just a few more to go, I think.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The next budget account is the Common Interest Communities Budget Account. The Common Interest Communities Budget Account funds the Ombudsman, who assists homeowner associations and their members and owners through education, facilitation, and equitable treatment. The agency is self-funded. There are no major closing issues in this budget account. There are 6 other closing items in this budget account, which includes 3 other closing items as outlined in the table on page 63 of the closing packet. And other closing item number 4 includes a recommended technical adjustment to add rental expenses that were not included in the governor's recommended budget for the new senior deputy attorney position. Other closing item number 5 includes a technical adjustment to increase arbitration and mediation services expenses in alignment with fiscal year 2024 actual expenses. And other closing item number 6 relates to the major closing issue discussed earlier in the Real Estate Administration budget account, which the governor recommends the transfer of the 1 administrative assistant position from this budget account to the Real Estate Administration budget account, but Budget Amendment A254683820 was submitted by the Governor's Office of Finance on March 14th, 2025, to eliminate the transfer out of the administrative assistant position in this budget account.
Seeing no questions, we can move on to the next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The next budget account is the Nevada Attorney for Injured Workers budget account, which the Nevada Attorney for Injured Workers represents injured workers without charge to the worker, and this budget account is funded entirely through transfers from the Workers' Compensation and Safety Fund. There are no major closing issues in this budget account, and there are 8 other closing items as outlined in the table on page 65 of the closing packet.
Seeing no questions, why don't we move on to the last one? Little bit of a celebration going on here. You're on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. The final budget account is the Financial Institutions Audit Budget Account. The Commissioner of the Financial Institutions Division is required by statute to employ a certified public accountant to review annual financial information supplied by existing licensees and applicants for new licensees. There are no major closing issues in this budget account and only 3 other closing items as outlined in the table on page 67 of the closing packet.
Seeing no questions, why don't we get started with why don't you take a deep breath first, a little bit of water, and then that way you can read to us what the recommendations could be.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madison Ryan, LCB Fiscal for the record. As previously noted, fiscal staff is responsible for developing closing recommendations for the following budget accounts. And to assist with the closing, fiscal staff has identified the budget accounts that are recommended to be closed as recommended by the governor, along with the identified technical adjustments that are recommended below. The decision before the subcommittee includes fiscal staff recommends that the following budget accounts be closed as recommended by the governor, with the technical adjustments noted, and requests authority for staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary. Budget account 1014677, the Office of Business and Planning, budget account 1014678, the New Markets Performance Guarantee, including the noted technical adjustment and other closing item 3 to adjust quality equity investment performance fee refund authority to eligible entities to $5.7 million in fiscal year 2026. Budget account 1014683, private activity bonds. Budget account 1013822, real estate technology account. Budget account 2163826, the Real Estate Education and Research, including closing item 3, consistent with the subcommittee's action on Decision Unit E232 in the Business and Industry Administration budget account 4681, and closing items 4 and 5, consistent with the subcommittee's action on Decision Unit E901 in the Real Estate Recovery budget account 3827. Budget account 1013820, the Common Interest Communities, including closing item 3, consistent with the subcommittee's action on Decision Unit E232 in the Business and Industry Administration's budget account, closing items 4 and 5 with the noted technical adjustments, and closing item 6, consistent with the subcommittee's action on Decision Unit E900 in the Real Estate Administration budget account 3823. Budget account 101-1013, the Nevada Attorney for Injured Workers, including closing item 8, consistent with the subcommittee's action on decision unit E232, in the Business and Industry Administration budget account, and 101-3882, the Financial Institutions Audit, including closing item 3, consistent with the subcommittee's action on decision unit E232 in the Business and Industry Administration budget account. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan. Any questions? Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion at this time.
I will move to do that, what Ms. Ryan just said.
Is there a second? Second. So a motion to do that, as read by staff, has been made by Chair Scheibel, seconded by Vice Chair Bacchus. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's been adopted. Thank you so much. I think we are all done with the budget closings for today. The last thing that we have is public comment. So the call-in information can be found on the agenda. Is there anybody here in Carson City who would like to make public comment? Seeing nobody making their way up to the mic. Anybody in Las Vegas? AVH, is there anybody on the phone lines?
Thank you, Chair. Our public lines are open and working. However, there are no callers to provide comment at this time.
Thank you so much. So we are going to close the meeting. Hope everyone has a wonderful Tuesday. Can't even know what day it is. Thank you so much. Meeting has been adjourned.